Touchdown Atlanta. Intercepted A.J. Terrell. Touchdown Atlanta. Drake London. Mike at the 5. Looks Mike touchdown. Oh my goodness. Welcome to the game, Cadero. Oh, Darnell Mooney inside the 10. Oh, and it's intercepted. Kane Ellis the pick. Striding out, Jesse. Touchdown Atlanta. No chance. Oh my gosh. Oh my heavens.
We welcome you back to Mercedes-Benz Stadium as we get Week 8 underway. The Falcons are hosting the Miami Dolphins today as they get their AFC slate underway. Thank you guys for joining us for the Falcons pregame show presented by Ticketmaster, Taylor Vismor, Derek Rackley. We got lots to talk about today, so we're just going to hop right in today.
Plenty to talk about. There's different faces going to be in the lineup. There's a different team. There's a quarterback that we're trying to attack coming into a town, to a lot of things to talk about.
A lot of things. So we're just going to hop right into it today. We're going to get to the meat right now. Let's actually look back at last week against the San Francisco 49ers. I think going into last week, there were a lot of conversations about this was a kind of a prove-it game for the Falcons because you had the big win over the Commanders, then you hit the bye, then you had a week and a half to prepare for the Bills, got that win in. And then you go across the country on Sunday Night Football, don't get it done. What did you see from the Falcons in general last week against the Niners?
Yeah, I mean, it was a game where, Taylor, they didn't do what I feel like they do best. They didn't do it well in that game, right? To me, this is a running team that uses the run to get everything else going offensively, right? You see 62 rushing yards in the game. Bijan Robinson held to 40 yards on the ground on 14 carries. And I feel like if your calling card is, think about the construction of this offense, if you will, Taylor. You got an offensive line where a majority of the guys have been playing with each other for a long time. This is not like you've got a bunch of rookies that you're trying to figure out how to get them initiated into the National Football League, if you will. This is an offensive line that's been playing together. And when you have that consistency up front, and week in and week out, it's not showing that. That's where it, to me, is a little bit of a problem because the run game ends up setting everything else up. Then when Michael Penix turns around and gives a fake to Bijan Robinson, people are tied into it, right? Then that opens things up behind him. And then once that ends up getting slowed down, you're behind the chains, you're having a lot more 3rd and 9s, 3rd and 11s, 3rd and 13s. And I don't care what offense you are, that's difficult to convert and stay on the football field. So when what you do best is not going well for you, it's not necessarily the greatest recipe, and especially in a national spotlight, they just weren't able to back up that Buffalo win.
I agree, and I think when you talk about like those 3rd and longs, 3rd and 11s, 3rd and 8s, whatever, I think, you know, when Zach Robinson spoke about the game last week, he said there were a lot of get back on track moments for us in San Francisco on Sunday night. There wasn't a ton of consistency. We couldn't find a rhythm. There were 16 second and longs in that game, and yes, 3rd downs are super crucial, but if you don't have good field coverage and possession and that 2nd down, and you have 16 second and longs, I mean, you're playing behind the chains pretty much the entire game. I mean, kind of switching over to the defense, though, what did you see from the defense last week against the Niners?
For the Falcons defense.
Yes.
No, they struggle. If you remember, what was my number one key last week for the 49ers? Do you remember?
No, I do not.
No, it was McCaffrey can't dominate.
That's right.
Right? And I think I might even have texted you, or I was thinking about texting you during the game towards the end of it, and guess what happened? McCaffrey dominated the game, right? Because there was so much discussion about Bijan Robinson, Christian McCaffrey, and how they work together in the offseason. They're very similar players, and Bijan asking him so many questions about how you do this, how you do that. And even though McCaffrey's had a couple seasons where he's been injured, I think a lot of people forget that, like, before Bijan Robinson, it was Christian McCaffrey doing a lot of the same things, making people miss, running the football in between the tackles, a great receiver out of the backfield. And if you let him dominate, just like he did on Sunday night, then that's how San Francisco and Kyle Shanahan's going to create an advantage, because they've got a truly special player, just like Atlanta does. Atlanta did not get the production from Robinson. San Francisco did get it from McCaffrey. Now, I will say the injury to Divine Diablo, I think, hurt because of what he can do. He's so versatile in his ability to run. There's certain times when he's almost like a safety, and then there's certain times when he's like a linebacker. So with him getting hurt early in that game, I definitely think it was a contributing factor. It's not the reason why the defense didn't necessarily play well, but at the end of the day, sometimes you got to pat him on the back. Like, Christian McCaffrey's a really darn good football player.
Well, I think last week I got to sit down with Caden Ellis after the game on Sunday night and talk to him about what the defense was able to do. And I asked him specifically about Divine. When he comes in, you got this inside linebacker, and you've got this really tight-knit group going into the season, and then you add Divine in there. How does he help your game, and how has he helped this defense as a whole? And he said, well, he's a safety. He's a linebacker in a safety's body. He can do a lot. He can get really tall and really lean, and he really grows in his pads. Like, you don't really notice Divine, without the pads on, and then he puts them on and you're like, you are a massive human being. You're a massive football player. And he said, but he also helps my game because it allows me to rush the passer, to be in those blitz packages, to step back and help the safeties out a little bit more. Having Divine in this defense allows the inside linebacker groups to really be more elusive, which is what they play best in, is these elusive fronts and these elusive plays, if you will, with Caden and Divine. So it's going to be interesting to see how this inside linebacker group works throughout the rest of the season. Divine was placed on IR earlier this week. He will be designated to return later in the season, just not right now. He will be on IR with a forearm injury. Yeah,
and I think what happens is now that you know what the scenario is, you can plan for it throughout the week, right? Jeff Ulbrich now can decide, do we want to use more J.D. Bertrand? Do we want to do this by committee? Do we want to get an extra safety on the field and make some adjustments in that way? So when you have kind of a week to prepare for a guy that played a really critical role to your defense is not going to be in the lineup, well, now you can practice on what do you feel the most confident way to attack the team that you're going to play, right? Because that could change each and every week. What they're going to do against the Dolphins could be completely different than what they're going to do against the Colts or the Patriots or whoever else is coming up on the schedule. But it gives you time, whereas in-game, it's not as easy to make those game plan adjustments when you can work on it throughout the course of the week.
That's right. So it's going to be interesting to see what this defense does with those injuries. Speaking of injuries, obviously, last week against the San Francisco 49ers, Michael Penix went down. He stayed in the game, finished the game. He will be inactive today. He has a bone bruise in his knee, and he is resting and recovering for the later slate of this Falcons schedule, but he will not play today, which means Kirk Cousins will make his start once again for the Atlanta Falcons. Obviously came in last year as a free agent, made a major splash signing with the Falcons, played for the first 15 weeks, and then sat for the last 3. Michael got his first 3 starts last year. What do we know about Kirk Cousins, and how will he work the best against this Miami Dolphins defense today?
Well, here is what we do know, right? There was so much conversation even last year when Atlanta decided to make the move to Michael Penix, and then the entire offseason as far as Kirk Cousins goes and how much his contract is and whether or not Atlanta was going to move on from him. Let's put all of that to the side, right? What we do know is Atlanta has a very capable and experienced backup quarterback in Kirk Cousins. Maybe you could argue the best backup quarterback in the National Football League, right? What we also know is that last year Kirk Cousins was not necessarily 100% from a health perspective. Obviously, he had the Achilles surgery coming into the season, and then he had some shoulder, elbow type stuff throughout the course of the year. And you would like to think, Taylor, that he is now much closer to 100%. And so with Kirk Cousins, what do you get from him versus what do you not get when Michael Penix is in the lineup? Obviously, you got a different arm talent with Michael Penix, right? You've got the escapability from Michael Penix that you don't necessarily have with Kirk Cousins. With Cousins, you've got a guy that's very surgical when it comes to understanding timing, knowing how routes developed, and you've got a elite processor at the quarterback position. From what Kirk Cousins has seen throughout the course of his career, it's going to be hard to stump him from a defensive scheme perspective, okay? So now you just got to hope the difference between last year, what got Kirk in trouble last year? Turnovers, right? It was the interceptions. That's what got him in trouble last year. So now you think maybe that experience coupled with his health, coupled with coming into this one kind of wanting to prove to everybody that he's still got some things left in the tank, number one. Number two, that he wants to go compete for his team and help the Falcons get a victory, that you get the performance of Kirk Cousins that you saw in 2 games against Tampa last year, that you got against Minnesota when he was extremely efficient last year. Those were the good games. You just don't want to see the turnover games this afternoon against the Dolphins.
I agree. And something about Kirk that I've taken away just throughout last year and the benching process and now where we are with him now with this Falcons team is that he's really a team player. He just wants to make sure that this team is doing as well as we can. He said, look, I'm here with the Falcons now. It doesn't matter where everyone else wants me to be, how much they're paying me. I'm on this team. And if we can win, whoever can get that done for us, whether it's me or Michael or Easton Stick, whoever that might be, I don't care. I just want this team to work and to be healthy and to get wins and stack wins. And that's been a larger conversation for this Falcons team throughout these first 6 games, 7, 8 weeks now with that week 5 bye as well. They're 3-3 coming into this game. The last 4 games, they're 2-2. Both of the away games, they've lost. Both of the home games, they've won. Everyone's kind of saying this looks like it's a different team every single week. We don't know what they're going to be great at. We don't know what they're going to be really lacking at. When you hear that, you obviously think, well, what's the quarterback saying? And obviously both these quarterbacks are saying we have to find consistency on this offense. How do you start finding consistency when you've got a backup quarterback starting for you today?
Well, you got a backup, but you got a backup that's very familiar with this roster, very familiar with the personnel, very familiar with this offense. And so I feel like that's a little bit of a step up, if you will, when you have to go to a backup quarterback. Let's be honest here. You just look across the landscape of the National Football League. When you go to a backup quarterback, you are missing a truly elite player, okay? Yeah. You can look across the league with Lamar Jackson getting hurt, and look what's going on in the Jets, and look what's going on in Minnesota. When you don't have your starting quarterback, things are just not the same, okay? You got to call a spade sometimes, but Kirk Cousins is different, in my opinion, than a lot of other backup quarterbacks in the National Football League for how long he has been a starter and how long he's played at a high level. So let's get back to the consistency factor. How do you become more consistent, or what is it Atlanta did previously, Taylor, that was not working out well for him? We had 2 games where the running game was not very good, right? And that's got to be a calling card for this Atlanta Falcons team. You got another game where kicking situation was up in the air and it wasn't necessarily what you're looking for, right? You got to have consistent special teams play. You had some turnovers. You had some lack of being able to convert on money downs, 3rd and 4th down, okay? I went back and I looked in my career to some seasons where we were maybe not so consistent, and then what kind of got us turned around. And this is really simple, but you got to find some winning streaks during the season, right? But the other thing that I remembered is you have to go back to what you do best. Okay, so I go back to the 2004 season. Remember, we had Michael Vick, Warwick Dunn, all that. We were one of the best running football teams in the National Football League. During those we had 2 different 4-game winning streaks that year. One thing we did was we did what we do best extremely well. We ran the football and we dominated that, right? So that gets me thinking, what does Atlanta do really well? They run the football, get the ball in the hands of Bijan Robinson. So if Atlanta wants to become more consistent, the things that you do best, specifically offensively, why? Because you have to score points in the National Football League to win games, is they have to run the football each and every week extremely well. Don't get too creative on what you're doing in the passing game, because something has to be your calling card. Something, whether it's defense. I think about the Denver Broncos this year and last year. What do? They get after the quarterback, right? So whatever you do extremely well has to fuel your team, and that has to put you on a winning streak where everybody gets confident and everybody goes into every single game saying, we are going to win today.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think we've kind of said it all season long that this Falcons rushing offense has really been the cornerstone and the calling card of this Falcons offense. So when you see that they are not doing that, or they can't establish that run early on in the game, it does get a little frustrating of like, why can't we get this rolling? Why can't they get this going? But we actually went back into the locker room earlier this week to ask other players what do they think will take for this offense and this team to find consistency.
At the end of the day, we got to find a way to win. You know, if it's on the ground, if it's in the air, you know, whatever it takes.
Pick each other up and let's go.
Got you, Chris.
Obviously, now you feel the ebbs and flows of seasons, and like I said, we just got to be consistent.
I feel like, you need all 11 to execute, and, whether sometimes we may miss details or just it's football and you'll get beat, but you have to minimize those.
Hey, spark it.
Obviously, there's some games that are not going to go our way. It's about how you bounce back and how you respond from those bad times and how you make it a better time.
It takes time, to build something special. I think we're building something special around here, but it doesn't happen overnight. And I definitely think that we have the pieces to do it. It just takes time, so I think we just continue to do what we're doing and just keep stacking days.
Once we're in rhythm, once we're consistent, throughout the game, that we can be, pretty damn good. So hopefully we can, keep it going and, making sure that we can do it one week, but also do it the next week. And just being consistent. And I feel like if we do find that consistency, then we can be a pretty damn good team.
I think we'll finally prove to ourselves that, we are who we say we are along the whole time that we've been doing this, that we come together as a group, as a team. Like, we know what we have in this building. We know the pieces that we have and what it would look like when it comes together, and it's going to come together. We just got to, like I said, continue to keep grinding, and it's going to be pretty special when it does.
Rise up, baby. Rise up. We got to find a way. We got too many good players on this team to not find a way.
All right, two things that I took away from that. There were a lot of good quotes in there. Number one was Michael Penix saying we got too many good players on this team to not be consistent, to not be great, and I fully agree. I think really at every position, both on offense and on defense, you have a key player in the NFL on your team.
Yep.
I mean, you got to get the ball to those guys if you can. The other one was Casey Washington saying it doesn't happen overnight, which is true, but we are in week 8. So I think, I'm not going to ask you when do we hit the panic button, because I don't believe in hitting the panic button at all. But when do we start to see this is what the Falcons team is, and when does the overnight kind of happen for this Falcons team, if you will?
Yeah, it's a great question, Taylor, because here's what I will say in the National Football League, in my experience, is that there's not a whole lot of people. And when I say people, I'm talking about owners, I'm talking about front office, I'm talking about coaching staffs that have the ability to be overly patient.
Yeah.
Right? Like, there are times when you, as an organization, you have to push the reset button, you got to reload with players, and it takes some time to be able to get that to happen. But I feel like for this Atlanta Falcons organization, that happened a few years ago. Like, after they got underneath the contracts for Matt Ryan and everything and had to go with some backup quarterbacks, if you will, the Marcus Mariotas, Desmond Ritters of the world, like, that was kind of the growth process, right? But then year after year after year, when they've invested in first-round draft picks on the offensive side of the ball, they've kept this offensive line pretty much together throughout the course of this rebuild, and then they've added strategic pieces later in the draft or through free agency, the defensive side of the ball. Like, that part of the patience to me is kind of over, right?
Yeah.
And now it's time where consistency has to take effect. And consistency in the National Football League is not always scoring 30 points a game and holding your opponent to 6 points. Everybody is awesome. Everybody is great in the National Football League. But the things that you do really well have to be there almost each and every week. Running the football, controlling the line of scrimmage on offense, being opportunistic on defense, keeping points off the board. Like, those things need to stay there each and every week. So yes, you don't want to hit a panic button. Yes, you can say that it takes time, but the longer you say it takes time, sometimes people are losing jobs during that, right? And that's just the nature of the beast in this league. And I'm not saying that's happened here, but the more that you make those statements, the more you're kind of saying, well, you got to give us a few more weeks. No. Like, your job is to go produce this week.
Right.
And then do it again next week, and then do it again the week after that.
Yeah, I think what you said, two things, and then we'll kind of move on, though, is number one, every team in this league, it's you can win any week in the NFL. It doesn't matter. We'll talk about it a little bit later with this Dolphins team. They've only won one game, but there's only been 1 or 2 games that have really been out of hand for this Dolphins team. Every other game has really been a one-score game for the Dolphins. And yes, they are down on their luck right now, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But the second thing that you mentioned a little bit earlier in the show is finding a time and place to start stacking games.
Yeah.
And finding that consistency by stacking the games, doing what you know, finding your calling card. I think that's what's happening today. Obviously, the Falcons will go on this AFC kind of slate as they take on the Dolphins. Then they'll head up to New England, take on the Patriots, and then they'll go overseas to Germany to take on the Indianapolis Colts. When they come back, they will have 2 back-to-back divisional games. Are these 3 weeks imperative to stack when you're looking towards your NFC South slate here? What are your thoughts on this upcoming schedule?
Which is so interesting to me, Taylor, is I thought about this, right? And obviously they're playing the Miami Dolphins today, which is a team that's struggling. But then I think about if you were to look back, let's say in the offseason, or you were to look back at the schedule and you saw 3 weeks where it was Miami, at New England, Indianapolis, and you're just thinking about what you had seen previously, not 2025 has started. You're like, Atlanta's looking pretty good situation, right? New England, they're struggling. Indy, they're at the bottom of the barrel.
Yep.
Well, you look up, the New England Patriots are division leader at 5-2. They're scoring 26 points per game. Who would have thunk that, right? The Colts are 6-1. Let me repeat that. The Colts are 6-1. They're leading the National Football League in scoring at 33 points a game. They're second in total offense, and by the way, they're +7 in a turnover margin. That's third best in the National Football League. That's why you never sit back in the offseason and count wins, because you never know what the heck is going to happen in the National Football League. So, yes, in the broadcasting profession, we can start looking at the next couple of weeks. The goal today is obviously beating the 1-6 Miami Dolphins, but then you're going to have your work cut out for you, probably more than you thought of in the offseason against the Patriots. And then you're going to have your work cut out for you slowing down this offense. I know it sounds weird, but from the Indianapolis Colts. Every game in the National Football League presents a different challenge, and every single season is different.
Yeah.
You can't think that, this was going to be the stretch that we're going to hit the winning streak. You got to go earn that winning streak.
Right, and what's so interesting about the next couple of games, New England and Indianapolis, they're both away games. And Zach Robinson was asked about, you've dropped the last 2 away games, you kept the last 2 home games. What's up with this, traveling disadvantage that it seems that the Falcons have? And he said, that's a really great question. I don't really know, because our guys actually love playing on the road, and they really enjoy it. So it's going to be interesting to see what they are able to do against the Patriots. And then Germany, how cool is that the Falcons are going to Germany to play the Indianapolis Colts. So let's go ahead and kind of move on, talking about the beginning of this AFC slate, though, in the Miami Dolphins. Obviously, this Dolphins team is down on their luck right now. They've only won 1 game so far this season. Let's start with Tua Tagovailoa, the guy at the center of it all. He's kind of been the center of
attention.
Center of attention, not just for this Miami Dolphins team, but really in the NFL. He's been struggling in his 6th year in the league. 11 touchdowns so far this season, 10 interceptions, a 67.8% completion rate, back-to-back weeks with 3 or more interceptions. What have you seen from Tua's game so far this season?
He's received a lot of criticism, and unfortunately, that comes with the territory when you play the quarterback position.
Yeah.
So a lot of people, you asked me before the show about something else, and I kind of joked about it, like, do you think that's fair? And one thing that I've learned about the National Football League is there's a whole lot of stuff that just ain't fair, right? And does Tua deserve the criticism that he's getting, and is it fair? Guess what? When you sign a huge contract, when you play the quarterback position in the National Football League, and when an organization is investing in you, like they're giving the keys to the car to you to say, our success is strongly, like there's a high percentage, it's hinged on top of your success, right? In the way that you play. Yeah, that's a lot of pressure, but that's why they get paid the most money in the National Football League. You talked about his stats, 11 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. How about 54 interceptions in 71 games played throughout his career? He has dealt with some injuries. We obviously know about the concussions in previous years. He's had 3 seasons now with double-digit interceptions. We're going to hear from Shock here in a little bit, but this is an opportunity where the first analogy that came to my mind is kick them while they're down, but that's not the greatest one, right?
No,
That's
I don't love that.
It's kind of sad,
mean.
right? But it also has an element of taking advantage of something that is going on, right? Like, what do we see that's happening with the other team, and how can we take advantage of it, right? And don't think that the teams that Atlanta played last year weren't saying the same thing about Kirk Cousins when he kind of got into his run with the turnovers, right? Is how do you take advantage of something that is presenting itself from your opponent? How can you kind of create some muddiness in the look and then take advantage of it, right? So that's what Atlanta is faced with today. They got a quarterback that's ultra aggressive. He wants to push the football down the field, but he's taken some ill-advised chances this year. You just hope that he takes a couple more of them today and Atlanta capitalizes on them.
Yeah, I know I mentioned it earlier, but Tua has had back-to-back games where he has had 3 interceptions each. And then last week against the Browns, he had back-to-back series where he threw interceptions. That's a lot going on between the ears to deal with week in and week out. And our DJ Shockley went back to the film room to talk about how the Falcons defense can take ownership of what Tua is doing wrong.
All right, guys, let's talk about this Miami offense and Tua Tagovailoa and some of the things that's kind of hurt him in the last ball game. 6 interceptions in the last 2 ball games. And I think it comes down to what he's seeing, but also forcing the football into coverage. Let's talk about this game right here where he throws the interception against the Cleveland Browns. And let's drop the route combination first. You got an easy out route right here. Easy completion should be. Also, you have a seam route going up the seam right here versus cover 3. I'll explain cover 3 in a minute. And then on the backside, you got this little skinny post bang 8, I used to call it right here. These are really great routes versus cover 3. This should be an easy completion. On the outside, I have what you call free access throws. Free access means these 2 guys on the outside are playing outside leverage and they're playing off the ball. Off the ball, outside leverage, these are easy completions for a skinny post, easy completions on the outside for an out route. Tua does not take it. You see his head and eyes are looking this way like he wants to throw this bang 8. But the thing that takes him away is this linebacker right here underneath. Now, that's a good thing. He takes it away. Now he has to come off of it. Now, the next thing is he has to find this safety that's in the middle of the field. What a lot of teams are doing, they're squatting on Tua. They're squatting on this Miami offense because they're not taking the top off the defense, but he's also sitting on it. When he sits on it and Tua wants to throw this seam route, he should take this guy on the outside, but he doesn't. Now, watch on the back end here as he gets ready to throw this football. Look at this safety. He's already taking an angle towards this guy here, and he should not force this football in here. Tua wants to force this football into this seam route when it's not there. The other thing to take into account is this guy's gotten too much depth. He started way up here on the line of scrimmage up here, but now he's way back here underneath this throw. Tua should not make this throw. That tells you he's not seeing the field, he's not seeing defenders well, and he's trying to force this football. Right now, this ball should be checked down to one of the defense guys on the front side, but here it is. He lets this football go, and you can see, look at the safety. The safety's already there. He's having to slow down. This is an easy interception for the safety sitting here. But here's where the ball should go. Look at these guys right here. One guy wide open, another guy wide open. This should check the football. This should tell you Tua is not seeing the entire field well. Teams are just dropping guys into coverage, and here's where I think we have an advantage. We do a really good job of running to the football, but understanding spacing and routes and combinations. If Tua continues to do things like this, the Falcons are going to come up with a big interception like we got here. But the football should have went to this guy or this guy, but Tua's not seeing the field well enough. And if he continues to do that versus our defense, who are ball hawks, who we know Xavier Watts is that kind of guy, he will take that football away. And I'm hoping Tua continues that trend today of not seeing the field fully.
All right, thank you, DJ. Always enjoy those. And something to note about that is obviously it wasn't in motion. There wasn't actual video, but that's actually what the players were seeing on the field during the game when they were reviewing their notes about the last series that they were on. So it is always really cool to see kind of what the players see during a game day, and obviously what Tua is or really is not seeing on game day as well. DJ brought up Xavier Watts. He's had 2 interceptions so far this season, having a great rookie year so far. But then you flip on the other side of the ball, or on the other side of the field, Jesse Bates has not had an interception yet. So much so that Jesse's actually been like begging offenses, like, throw the ball to me. I know that you're all throwing it to Watts, and then you're all throwing it to Xavier, but give me a chance because he's just as much of a ball hawk as I am. So when you're seeing what Tua can do or what he really is not doing so far this season, what excites you about the potential of what Jesse Bates might be able to do today?
Well, we know Jesse is such a student of the game. He's going to study tape, and he's going to find his opportunities where he can take a chance. And he takes very calculated chances, and I think the coaching staff gives him that freedom. They give him the leeway. When you see something, you go take it as a player, right? We trust in you, and we've seen over the last 2 years, to the tune of 10 interceptions, by the way, that good things happen when you take chances, and rarely do we see people end up beating him and they turn it into a 50 or 60-yard touchdown. So maybe this is the game. You talked about no interceptions so far this year. Maybe this is the game where Jesse finds an opportunity to undercut a route and he ends up with an interception. Talked about 10 the last 2 years, 24 in his career. One of the best players in the last, call it 6 or 7 years as far as taking the football away. So Jesse probably licking his lips for an opportunity to go make a big play alongside the rookie who's had a good start to his year.
Yeah, when you have a Dolphins team like this or any team like this that kind of comes in down on their luck, they haven't won very many games at all, you kind of scratch your head and think, well, who are the guys that can make some plays on this offense or on this defense? And so let's kind of talk about this Dolphins offense outside of Tua and the playmakers that are on this team. Obviously, you got Devon Achane, Jaden Waddle, and then on the defensive side of the ball, who we will talk about a little bit later, is Minkah Fitzpatrick. Let's start with these first two guys, running back and the wide receiver. These are national names in this league. How do you stop the production, and how do you make sure that Waddle is covered all game today?
Yeah, I mean, a couple things come to mind, especially with, let's start with Devon Achane. What you have to know is that Jeff Ulbrich has faced him the last couple of years in the same division as the defense coordinator of the Jets. And so he knows the challenge that is presented with a guy like Devon Achane because he's had to game plan for him twice a year the past couple of years. The other thing that you know is he is another running back that's in the same mold, oddly enough, as Bijan Robinson and Christian McCaffrey. He's very electric when he gets the football in his hands. He's got the ability to make people miss in space, and he is a great receiver out of the backfield. So much of the same challenges that you faced in training camp or in the offseason when you're going up against your own player in Bijan Robinson, or last week in how you game plan for Christian McCaffrey, is very much the same with Devon Achane and what he is able to do all over the field. So he's a focal point of the offense, but when it's not him, it's likely Jalen Waddle now with Tyreek Hill being out of this lineup, and his biggest asset is his downfield speed. He's got elite level speed. So you do not want him to get the football in his hands on a quick slant running through the middle of your defense without the appropriate leverage angles, because he's going to outrun your defense. He's just got that next level speed. Or you don't want somebody to be sitting on a go route when he's just streaking down the middle of the field, because he's going to likely create some separation. Now, Jalen Waddle's not a very big guy, right? So you don't necessarily have to think about he is going to beat you at the moment of attack because of his physicality, much like we see with Drake London. He's trying to beat you with quickness, he's trying to beat you with speed, and he's trying to take the top off the defense. Even though Shock said that they haven't been able to do that a whole lot this year, Jalen Waddle has still got next-level speed. Offensively, those are the two guys that you definitely have to key in on.
Yeah, especially because Tyreek Hill is no longer playing as of right now for the Dolphins. And then something else that happened on the offensive side of the ball for them, Darren Waller was placed on IR, and then their backup tight end, Julian Hill, he will be out today. So they're kind of down to their third and fourth string tight ends. So there's not a ton of options for Tua today when it comes to star power, I guess. But we've talked about it in seasons past of don't let these guys that are, bubble guys or fringe guys, whatever you want to call it, get out in front of you. Don't think too small about these guys, because these are the guys that are trying to put really good film on tape and make a name for themselves today.
They always say that they're the guys behind the starters, they're pros too, right? So you just don't want a Malik Washington or a Taj Washington to all of a sudden look up and they've got 6 catches for 75 yards and a touchdown apiece, right? And then all of a sudden you're like, well, what just happened? We didn't think that they had a whole lot of playmakers out there. They're still pros now. I think the Darren Waller thing is interesting because even though he was added late, he ended up having like 4 touchdowns in 3 games. Like, it instantly brought production to them. So now they don't have that element. They don't have the backup tight end. So that's 2 less options for Tua Tagovailoa in the passing game. But they've got other guys looking to step up, looking to take advantage of that playing time. So this is just executing defense, right? Like, you take the call from Jeff Ulbrich, from the the linebacker and Caden Ellis, and then you just go execute it. You don't necessarily think about the players. Yes, you have to understand what they're really good at, but you just got to go execute the defense and slow down whoever it is that's trying to make plays.
Yeah, and Jeff Ulbricht's kind of been talking about this all season so far, and I think you can see that more today than really any other game that they've played so far this season. Is we're just trying to play to our keys. We're trying to play our game, our style, our defense, and we're going to react to what they give us, but we're just going to play to what we know and to our keys, and I think that you'll be able to see that in the defense today. We will see what they are able to do. Let's kind of flip over to the offense. Before we get into the all of the offense, I'm actually going to call a quick audible if we can talk about the inactives of this Falcons team really fast, because I mean, he wasn't even on the injury report coming into the week, and then he was placed on the injury report on Saturday as questionable. Drake London will not be active today. He was day-to-day coming into this game. He will not be available at all today. Billy Bowman Jr. will be out for, I think, the second or third week in a row. Jalen Walker will stay out with a groin injury. Zach Harrison, this is actually a big loss for this Falcons defense. He's been a really unsung hero for this defense the last couple of weeks in stacking sacks for this defense. But staying on the offensive side of the ball, when you don't have a Michael Penix and you don't have a Drake London, right, that really pares down your offense, it feels like. But you still have a Darnell Mooney, you still got a Bijan Robinson, you still got a Kyle Pitts, you still got a Tyler Algier. I mean, you've got all these names. When you're looking at this offense today, what are you expecting to see with the guys that will not be playing?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot. I mean, that's a lot of production that's not going to be on the field for Atlanta today, but this is unfortunately how things go in the National Football League. Sometimes it's always about, like, who steps up next, right? So, yeah, there's an easy way, and I love how your growth as a football analyst, because you were talking to me before we went on the air today about, well, you know, even though that Drake London's not going to play, they could just move Bijan Robinson out to pick up a more wide receiver. I mean, this is Taylor just throwing all this stuff out for me. Right? But yes, I mean, it does potentially give you a little bit more flexibility to put Robinson in the slot and put Algier in the backfield, right? Yeah. We've seen that throughout the course of the season. They like to use some motion side to side with Robinson to kind of mess with the eyes of the defense, but maybe he motions out and he stays in a traditional slot position. Or maybe this is a little bit more of a focus on getting the ball into the hands of Kyle Pitts. Or maybe we see a David Sills, we see a Casey Washington. It's all about, like, who steps up when the opportunity presents itself. And I think we've all been kind of waiting for, like, a Casey Washington or a David Sills to, like, have that breakout game to where they get the confidence. Zach Robinson's talked about them, but he's talked about them kind of in a blocking, a support role, right? Now maybe today is their opportunity to catch the football, make some plays, get some first downs. Maybe they get into the end zone, because somebody's going to have to step up for some of this production that's going to be lost. Yeah,
I think Casey Washington is one of the guys that you can probably circle on your game notes of someone to watch. He is normally the first wide receiver in there if Darnell comes out, if Drake comes out. And then, so we're going to talk about on top of that is that third wide receiver position. It's kind of been in limbo the last couple of weeks of who's going to be that third wide receiver. And like you mentioned, I can't believe, I mean, I need someone to record that and, like, send it to me, Rack giving me my flowers. Like, wow, I can't believe it. I was telling you before the show started was we might see a lot of 22 being played today. A lot of Tyler Algier, like you said, Bijan Robinson with Tyler in the backfield, and then Kyle Pitts as a wide receiving tight end, and then Charlie playing that more blocking tight end role, which he always does. I think, you know, without having that, you know, key third wide receiver, kind of that limbo spot that we've had the last couple of weeks now, it's going to be interesting to see how they use and who they use to plug and play what down and distances as well.
Let me also say this, and I talked about Casey Washington, David Sills, and Robinson moving, and Pitts being more of a factor. How about this one? How about Darnell Mooney stepping up and showing that he could be a number one, right? Like, now this is not about the second or third stepping up. Like, how about what we would call our number two, our wide receiver two has got to go out and play like a wide receiver one today, right? Like, that just has to happen. Like, if Kirk finds Darnell Mooney, you got to make a play. You got to make another play. Now, you don't have to be Drake London, because Drake London is a different body type than you are. So him trying to body people up is not the play. His job is to make people miss at the line of scrimmage. His job is to get away from coverage downfield. His job is to use his speed downfield, but he's got to go make some contested catches today and be a wide receiver one.
Yeah, and here's the thing. We've been talking about all this pass catching and going deep and all, and who's going to fill in and who's going to – I mean, It's going to be a running game today, you guys. I fear that we've talked ourselves into a hole because it probably won't even matter.
We talked about the run game.
Like, well, they might not even run at 22 because, listen, this Miami Dolphins defense is the worst, for lack of a better word, of the rush defense in the league. They've allowed over 1,100 rushing yards this season, 159 yards per game, which is about 5.2 yards per carry.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. And then you've got these two running backs on this Falcons offense who have two totally different skill sets, but they complement each other. They're like a yin and a yang with each other. I mean, how big of a game do you think this is going to be for Robinson and Algier?
Has to be, right? Has to be. And Miami has given up 120 rushing yards or more in 6 of 7 games this year, right? And so it's obviously been a struggle for them. And this has to be. We talked about Jesse Bates and him kind of licking his chops as far as an opportunity against Tagovailoa in the passing game. This has got to be that same type of feel for the offensive line, responding from last week, because I'm sure they took it to kind of to the chin a little bit, especially in meetings, as far as how they were not able to run the football effectively last week, that they're going to answer the call and run the football against a team that has struggled to stop it all year. And the creativity and using some scheme from Zach Robinson to try to create some advantages and run the football today.
I mean, I think you're going to talk yourself blue at this point. Like every week it's like run the ball, establish the run, establish the run. So let's kind of go ahead and get into the keys to the game, because obviously I feel like number one, probably something along using your star players. You got 3 from me today. What's your first one?
I do. We need a big game from the playmakers. And I'll tell you that this key changed throughout the course of the week, because it was a big game for the big 3 with Drake London being in that conversation. But as the week progressed, sometimes you just never know who's not going to be in the lineup. So you got to get a big game from your playmakers. So let's just say we remove Drake London. We know it's Robinson. We know it's going to be Pitts. We also know that it's going to be Kirk Cousins now and not Michael Penix. But how about that big 3, as I just talked about, being Darnell Mooney? Like, need a big game out of Darnell Mooney today. So your playmakers offensively need to play like stars today. And what do stars do? They produce, and they ultimately put points on the board. And that's something that I'm looking for. It's not a key. It's just something that the playmakers can help do, is Atlanta needs to score points today. And that's the difference, because if you are trying to win 14 to 10 games, a lot of times that doesn't work out in your favor. So these playmakers need to find a way to get 7 and not settle for 3.
Yeah, the main playmaker of this Falcons offense obviously being Bijan Robinson. Let's flip to the other side of the ball, talk about their running game. What's your second key to the game?
It is stuffing the run. And we talked about Devon Achane, and I just feel like this is one player that you've got to eliminate. Much like San Francisco put together a nice game plan to eliminate the running game last week for Atlanta by doing different run pressures and creating movement up front on the defensive line. It's like, take a little bit of page out of the book of Robert Saleh. Get some run pressures. Find a way to slow down Devon Achane, whether he's running the football or he's getting out of the backfield to be the receiver, the dynamic receiver that he can be. But if you can slow him down, I didn't do that as a key this week, but don't let Achane dominate, kind of like Christian McCaffrey and he did last week. But stuffing the run, to me, is number one. Then guess what? It presents those opportunities like Shock was talking about on the breakdown in the passing game.
Yeah, so Achane is, he's in the top 10 in rushing. I think he's ranked 9th right now, or tied for 9th in the league in rushing. From the backfield, he has 472 yards and averages about 5.3 yards per carry. So if you can stuff that run, get him to stop, get it to 2 or even 3 yards a carry, that's going to do dividends for this Falcons defense. What is your third and final key for the game today?
Take the rock away. Take the rock, okay? We saw the breakdown from Shockley. He showed some of the eye misdisciplinary, well, how Tua Tagovailoa is not seeing things from a visual standpoint. He's trying to force balls into zones that are not there, not necessarily taking the gimmies that are there, like the tight end or the back coming out of the flat, which should be much more high percentage throws. He's trying to fit that ball into a small window. So take the football away. We did talk a lot about Tua and the interceptions and the opportunities presented, but you know what? I'm cool with a strip on a fumble or two. I'm cool with a strip sack on a pass rush. Whatever it is, take the rock away. It's been one area that's changed this year. Turnover margin was a problem last year. It's not been as much of an issue this year, but find a way to take those possessions away on defense.
Especially Jesse Bates III. I'd like to see an interception at some point.
Let him get in that column for this year.
We'll see if that can happen today. All right, time for my preference. Obviously, mine is going to be get ahead, stay ahead with this Miami Dolphins team. If you get ahead quickly with this team and you stay ahead, they kind of die off and they peter off really quickly as well. Last week against the Cleveland Browns, it was 31-6 you guys. Tua Tagovailoa had back-to-back interceptions. Once this Dolphins team kind of gets out of bounds and can't find their way, can't find their rhythm again, they kind of continue to lose that rhythm throughout the game. So it's going to be important for this Falcons team to get ahead quickly, start with the ball. Raheem Morris had said earlier in the week that starting with the ball has become part of their calling card for this offense so far this year. We're going to see if they're going to be able to do that again today. So get ahead, stay ahead, score quick, don't get in second down and long.
Those 3 keys and a preference, that's a pretty good recipe for a win. I like it.
I think we're a pretty good team, you guys. What do you think? Let us know. Okay, well, we will be back with you guys back in Ticketmaster Studios next week as the Falcons take on the New England Patriots up in New England next week. Until then, enjoy the game, and we'll see you next time.